Hi and welcome to Business Today. Well, there's a lot going on in the world. Myself and Gerard are practicing social distancing, so we're going to take turns of getting in front of the camera so we can keep that in check for everyone. I'm going to say right at the top of today's show, with everything going on, you're going to see interviews where we're actually sitting pretty close to people. These are pre-recorded. I'm sure you know we pre-record interviews, and I guess it was a bit of fortuitousness on our part. When this started happening, we kind of looked and said to our clients and the people who wanted to come in, why don't we do a bunch of interviews up front, just so if something goes a little bit off skew, a bit skew with, we've got interviews in the bank and we can keep the show running. And they've got really good information to share with everyone. So when you're watching this and you see these interviews, please remember that we did pre-record everything before this pandemic got a little bit out of control. That's why we're sitting close together. Okay, well, it is a business show today. I'm going to jump out of the seat. Gerard's going to get in and he's going to introduce our first guest.
Welcome to Business Show today. Today we're going to speak to Helia Singh, where she's going to talk to us about negative feedback. Feedback, as soon as somebody says, I want to give you feedback, we go into a defensive mode. And actually, to get feedback is really, really good. Good or bad. JT folks always say, whatever people think about you is none of your business. And I think this is quite applicable here. When you get feedback, it means that you are putting a message out there that people are listening to. If people start to push back, it means that there's two different opinions. And I really think this is such a good interview to listen to say it's actually okay to get negative feedback.
I want to talk about negative feedback. As a woman in business and being online, that was, I think, one of the biggest reasons or the block for me to put myself out there. And it was about negative feedback. And many people ask me this question, how do I deal with negative feedback? And what is my view and how to basically, move around it? Yes, there was a time that somebody put a negative feedback online, and it wasn't about my services or anything. It was about the way I wrote that paragraph in English. Somebody criticized me because of my English. And for those of you who know me, I'm coming from a non-English speaking background. And the funny thing was this, other people jumped in there and replied to that person to say, well, for God's sake, listen to what she's got, not to, looking at the grammar that she's trying to hear or write. And of course, I apologize to that person that I'm sorry that for me knowing two languages is threatening you or make you feel bad. I'm doing my best. Believe me, I'm doing my best to, become good at English every day. So that was the first thing. So never ever ignore negative feedback. That's the first thing. And remember, if it's a personal feedback or is it a business feedback? Sometimes people are threatened by your ambition, by your goal, by your success. Try to understand that and don't take it personally. There are so many internet trolls out there that they've got nothing else to do and they're coming and just hurting other people's feeling. So the best thing is just move around that and ignore those ones. But if there's negative feedback around your service or your product, then of course you need to be very professionally answer them and try to fix and make it clear, because no matter what you do, it's going to be in the internet forever. People is going to take a snapshot of it and put it on every website. So be ready for that. But the next one is how to motivate myself around it, how to get around it. It's just every time I hear negative feedback, I just try to look at the positive side. That how can I use this negative feedback to make something better? So, and that's for itself is just a self, discovery and a self-development. That's my journey.
Well, here we are on Business Today, a bit of a different show. Yes, myself and Gerard practicing social distancing, jumping in and out of the chair so we comply with all the rules and all the guidelines. It's for everyone's good health, I think. I thought that talk with Helia was really good about dealing with negative feedback, and I really liked the points Gerard made before the interview on some of the thoughts from JT Fox and some of Gerard's own thoughts as well. I really like the fact that it's two opinions, and that's a good thing, and we have a good discussion. And hey, in discussions, that's when opportunities are discovered. Our next guest, now I'm going to say this again, these are pre-recorded. These are all pre-recorded prior to what started happening with this bit of a crisis. And we kind of anticipated this. And I think this is something we can all do in business. We have to kind of forward think all the time, see what's coming. We had a look at what was happening in China, UK, US, and started to see a movement and said to our guests, look, can we pre-record quite a few up front just in case things go off the wire, you'd get too busy in business. We didn't predict this, obviously. And so you'll actually see us sitting a little bit closer together than social distancing rules. So that is just clarifying that we actually did these interviews prior to all this going off the rails, so to speak. Our next guest coming in, the one who actually came into the studio, was Mr. Andrew Ford. He's talking about the customer experience, and wow, I think this is really opportune for what we're going through right now. How can you get your customer experience back on track, staying on track, and benefiting from a situation rather than becoming a victim? Here he is, Mr. Andrew Ford. So when you've built a large organization like you have, how do you, you've got franchisees as well. How do you keep the customer, because you've got a standard, and it seems to be very similar throughout the whole organization.
Yeah, and that comes back to our procedure manual for our franchisees in particular, where we may introduce something new, for example, at the head office, and then we'll roll it out across the franchises. Not always is it well received, or they don't see the merit in it.
I can imagine.
Ultimately, you get a bit of pushback, but ultimately they have to follow the line, and inevitably more often than not, we're right with what we were trying to introduce, some sort of new initiative or some sort of customer experience enhancement. And one exercise we did very recently was to actually map out the customer journey, as they call it. Oh. So in other words, every touch point that you have with the customer, just map it out, and it actually turns into a circle, and the middle of the circle being the sale. So from the very first point of contact is your first touch point, obviously, be that by phone, email, or by a web form inbound. And then once you've worked out that customer journey, you can then go back through it and say, okay, which one do we feel is not as good as it could or should be? And then focus on that, because you don't realise how many times, especially in our sort of business, we actually do come in contact with a customer. Different to a store where you walk in and walk out. We've got the quoting process and all that sort of thing. So if you're interesting for many businesses to map that out, and you may see weaknesses in the customer service where one part of it's very strong and brilliant, but you can undo it all at the end, for example, because you haven't got focused on that last touch point.
Is this part of your personal philosophy of continual and never-ending improvement?
Definitely. And somewhat our hands are being forced, as we touched on a moment ago, with the customer expectations rising. But nevertheless, I think that's the difference between a company that's progressive and able to grow and still dominate a market versus one that becomes irrelevant more quickly, and they're just another company, and then you just merge into it. Then what's the point of difference? Is that it comes down to price often, and then you're in a price war, which is a race to nowhere.
It is,
so, if you do exceed the customer's expectations, obviously it builds the word of mouth. It allows you to charge a premium for your service, because inevitably there's a cost associated with most customer service initiatives, and that's got to be recouped. And I'm sure most people wouldn't mind paying for it as long as they get it. And on a consistent basis, that little bit extra to get that better customer service.
Now, Andrew, as you built your company, and you've got other companies as well, but as you built Ford and Dune, obviously there must be smaller businesses out there saying, we can't afford to do this, we don't have the time to do this, we don't have the money and the resources. But you weren't always 35 years old company with great, you actually did start off with just two guys in a van.
Yeah, and $500 in the bank. So we definitely didn't have, I suppose, relying on our personalities back then. But not with the customer experience, I don't believe there is a lot of capital cost associated with it. Yes, there may be some time, and yes, you've got to plan it and allocate that time, but it's pure cost. I don't think that's probably one of the least expensive ways to improve your business.
Yes.
It's not like you've got to spend a mountain of money on marketing or something, or a new premise or anything like that. So I think it's a really most cost-effective way, because obviously building word of mouth and clients coming back is so much more economical than having to find new clients by marketing each time.
Did you use external advisors to help you along the way to learn what to look for and how to do this?
From time to time we have. In fact, we had customer service Graham Harvey, who you may know.
Yeah.
He was in late last year too and addressed the whole group at different times, different departments. So we're always ongoing, but we might only bring a consultant like Graham in every 2 to 3 years just to freshen it up. Maybe he's got some new learnings that are worth sharing and us adopting. But generally it's got to come from the top to it. It's got to be practiced and breathed by the management or the owner of the business. So they're doing one thing and then say, no, you've got to do like that. Your staff see the behaviour and mimic that.
They certainly do. Now, you in yourself, in your role, as you've grown now, you actually are mentoring, you've got mentees and you are a mentor to people. And is this one of the areas where people can actually access you on helping them build their customer? I mean, you've got 35 years experience, you've got a lot of knowledge in this area.
You probably don't realise often how much you've picked up over that time, but absolutely that's something we could help with. And if they think they've got a particular challenge or they just don't know how to move forward with improving it, that's when we could just do that simple map out the customer journey. And for example, every client who buys a ducted air conditioning system off us, which is quite a large sum of money, $8,000 to $15,000, we also surprise them with what we call a handover box. And in the box, it's a beautiful quality box and there's a beautiful custom-made operating manual in there, not just the manufacturer's one that you find in the cardboard box that half the time gets thrown out by the installers. So we've made it a more beautiful, much more functional. And in there's other little goodies as well, and a thank you letter signed by Kyle and myself. So every client gets that. So they're just not expecting it. And that's the sort of thing that I think sets companies apart.
Just that little after-sales surprise.
Yeah, exactly. And cost to us, like the whole thing costs us about $25 for the box and all the goodies. So that's not expensive versus a $10,000 client of yours. It's chicken feed. Yeah. But it's still something they weren't expecting and they're surprised by it and they like it.
Look, if you've got a question for Andrew, you want to contact him, you can write to info@worthingtonstoop.com, or we'll put Andrew's link below. And yeah, if you're looking for a mentor in Perth, Western Australia, someone who can help you get to that next level, you're certainly the guy who can help them get there.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Andrew.
That was Andrew Ford on part 2 on customer experience. We all know that the customer is number 1 in your business. And what the experience from day number 1 is so important. So I really hope that there were some golden nuggets there that you have taken and start making a plan how you're going to introduce it into your business. Next up, we are going to ask our guest the 60-second question, where we ask them one question, they don't know what it is beforehand, and then they have to answer it within 60 seconds. It was quite interesting to see how people react when you ask them without them thinking, and they didn't expect this as well. See what trend you can see with all these business owners, what they think about the question. So the question for this week is, how do you manage when things go wrong?
I would like to think that I stop, I take a breath, I take a second breath, I think of the first thing that comes to my mind and say, is this the correct approach? I then review that in my own mind. If I believe it's correct, I will move in that direction. I think in a lot of cases I do react automatically, but I like to think that I come back to centre and then process point by point to move.
Well, that's daily management because that's life. Everything can go wrong in a day. So to me, it's just the first thing is having a deep breath and just think that, okay, whatever happens, it just does happen to me, it happens for me. Having that attitude is changed everything around me. And because of that, I'm just able to look at the problem and to say, okay, how to find a solution, or perhaps there was a reason this has happened for me to get the next direction in life.
I run around and tear my hair out. No, actually it's a case of like things do go wrong in business. There's not going to be every single day is going to go exactly according to plan, but look, I don't lose my cool. That's the biggest thing. Things are going to go wrong. You have to learn from those mistakes and have to be able to pick up and start again. You don't learn everything in one day, and those mistakes help you to refine what you need to be doing to get to the point that you need to be at.
Probably sport is helping me a lot. That means any kind of problem I have to solve, or I know something is going wrong, I'm just going to exercise, going to swim and doing something that I can, sometimes it's meditation, just to really settle and think without any emotions and find a solution.
Things go wrong all the time. It depends on the degree of how wrong it is, you know. But generally speaking, you know, you're always going to get knocked down. It's a matter of how many times you get back up. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge to get on with things. That's it.
Well, what a very interesting response to an interesting question. No, we didn't actually pre-plan the question. Some of you are probably thinking, did you know this? No, we didn't. But how do you handle it when things go wrong? And things seem to be going a little bit wrong at the moment, but some people are handling it better than others. I thought some great little insights there. Our next guest, now I think this also is pretty opportunistic. Now remember, we pre-recorded these, so we didn't actually do any predictions, we just pre-recorded them. And this one is with Mr. Peter McClernand, and he's talking about be proactive. And I think when a crisis hits, you know, you can lie down and die, or you can get up and fight. There's always opportunity. I've been looking at Facebook and so many groups and so many people supporting each other. You know, I've been so impressed by these people. They're getting up, you know, small business, medium business, large business owners, all getting in and helping each other. But at the end of the day, if it's to be, it's up to me. This is a great interview. Be proactive with Mr. Peter McClernand. Peter, I think one of the things that when people watch your show, they pick up from yourself and home base how proactive you are. And we've got the coronavirus thing going on at the moment, and obviously a few people are pulling their heads in, but at business base, and you guys are using this as an opportunity to expand.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, with other business owners, they may be looking at you now and saying, look, business base, you've got, I can't remember, you've got quite a number of employees here, 10 or so, or is it more than
it's
that?
about 11 employees currently. Yeah.
11.
So not huge. Yeah. But,
Yeah. So how does a small medium business like yourself handle changes that may affect staffing? What's your strategies around that?
Okay, so what we're looking at is, I've talked about the cash flow management in the past, yeah. So I've advanced that now by another 3 months, so that I'm looking now at where we might be in September, October this year, you know. So I'm looking 6 months or more ahead. I'm factoring into that. Well, one thing that might be a good tip for people is that if you're paying, if you're a company paying PAYG and GST, say GST quarterly, PAYG monthly, the first thing is that there's a federal government incentive that's worth about $25,000, so that when you submit your PAYG tax at the end of the month, you eligible for about a 50% of your PAYG to be refunded up to a maximum of $25,000. So you can factor into your cash flows that you can receive that refund monthly. From our point of view, we'll get that $25,000 over about a 4-month period, about $6,000 odd per month coming back into us from that's a grant, so it's not repayable, you know. So that's one little extra cash flow that comes in. The other one is the ability to defer tax payments. So the ATO understands the current situation, and small businesses can contact the ATO and negotiate deferral of tax payments. Now, it's quite a big thing. You know, you can defer up to 4 months. So you still need to submit your returns, you know, your tax returns for both PAYG and for GST. But you can get a deferral up to 3 months, up to 4 months, sorry. So we've calculated that deferral would save us about $100,000 in tax payments over that period of time. Now that's a deferral, not a grant, so eventually you have to pay them. But what you're anticipating is that you'll be doing better in 6 months' time than you are now,
Yeah.
under the current circumstances, and you'll be able to repay that, you know. So that's another tip really there's another $100,000 saving there, $25,000 grant, $100,000 saving. So there's $125,000 there, which goes towards that 2 weeks of lost income, yeah. The other thing is, of course, you know, we're not sure about if there is a shutdown, how that will be treated. Is it sick leave? Is it annual leave? You know, how's it to be treated? So, depending on how it is treated, there is, you know, a reduction in the balance sheet for accrued leave. Leave is taken, so it becomes less of a liability for the company. So you're actually using up annual leave, you know. But that depends on how it is to be treated. We're not sure yet, you know, if it does occur. So yeah, and then we're looking at, as I say, we're sending out EDMs to encourage people to invest in the assets that we sell between now and June, which we're hoping usually does. We usually have a big increase in sales in May, June anyway, April, May, June, because of the time of the year. But with these incentives, that could be much more. So we're expecting to kind of lose a bit here, but gain it back there. So we're taking steps now towards making sure we have that very good period after this quieter period.
Some great advice there for business owners to stay on track, and I think you're a big one to do your own research. I think you know, that's what you're saying to me. Business owners now need to be doing their own research, not just listening to mainstream media chatter. Yeah,
well, so there may be other incentives. This is like tranche one of the incentives for small businesses, and I believe there's more to come. So let's see what's in the next package. But from the state government point of view, I can't. There's no income or no subsidy available to us from the state government's incentives. You know, but the federal government ones are quite good. Yeah.
The interview with Peter today, I think, just shows you how important it is to be proactive, and nothing shows us how important it is, like an epidemic that we're in at the moment. I'm sure that after this, more businesses will be more proactive in putting plans together if things go wrong. Like Michael said, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. If we don't put these things in place, nothing will. So our next guest is Alex. We have quite a good interview with her where she talks about your why and your values. Now, I'm a very firm believer in your why and your values. And sometimes there's opportunity in disaster, like at the moment. You have time that you might be in self-isolation to sit down and look at your values, look at your why, and see if it's still relevant to today's business. Yes, Alex.
Hi, I'm with Alex from the Mentoring Effect, and last time we spoke and you made a really succinct comment that I thought, if you're not ready or you're unsure, don't get mentors or coaches or whatever, but if you are ready to take that next step to get successful, then do it. One of the things I want to talk to you about today though is people on that first journey. We hear so much about to be successful, you've got to know your why, you've got to know your values. Could I get your take on this thing that Simon Sinek and quite a few of them now have regurgitated and made it popular?
Yes, yeah, I can talk a lot about that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's very important your why, because I had a few clients and they said, you know, I want to make a lot of money, and I said, are you really want to make a lot of money? Are you really prepared? And I'm honestly asking that question myself, because I had like quite a lot of money, and after that I didn't. You know, you're going ups and downs, you're changing the businesses, you're going from the different countries to the different countries, and you're starting from the beginning. But how you're prepared for that, you know, how you're prepared to put 24/7 sometimes, you know, really hard work into your business. Are you prepared to lead 50 people in your company? Are you prepared to wake up 5 a.m. and be first in your company and lead all these offices, you know? And it's huge responsibility. Are you prepared to be responsible for 50 or 100 employees or 1,000 employees? I always ask that questions, because everybody's like, I want to make million. Yeah,
yes,
do it, but are you prepared?
You're prepared for what comes with it.
Yeah.
Do you find sometimes, and I love that, be prepared for it, and that is so, so important. And I think a few of us have been on that journey of making lots of money, and we've lost lots of money.
Yes.
And people say, well, why'd you lose it? Probably lack of being prepared. You know,
Yeah,
we got it
exactly.
and didn't know, we weren't prepared of what we were going to do when we got it in the first
Yes,
place.
yeah, probably that happened to me as well when I had my event company before. I started to make a huge amount of money, and I wasn't prepared, you know, to scale the business and do more things, and probably I wasn't sure about my why, and that's why, you know, probably people should think about that, because it's like, do I want a lot of money or I want to travel? Because if you want a lot of money and work hard in your business, that few first years you will be stuck with your business.
Yes.
And that's why I think all the coaches talking about why.
Yeah, is it difficult to I must admit, I'm going to say from personal experience, digging for my why took a little time for me to actually find it and really discover it. Do you find that, or do you find most people a bit different and they know it, or does they take a bit of digging?
I think, yeah, it's very easy to take your shallow why, your first why, you know, because I want to travel, because I want that, you know, I want to be free.
Yes.
It's kind of, I would say it's vague. It probably will disappear and change. Your why can also change over the time as well, because you're growing, you're changing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's not
Yes.
always the same. That's why we're going back every 3 months. We have like a quarter assessment and checking, you know, again, what is our vision, what is our why. Vision can change as well.
Yes.
And that's how you grow. Maybe, you know, after 1 year. What was your why? Actually, I'm very interested.
Mine was to help startup businesses reach their first $1 million and keep it. Not do what I did, lose it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So by the time I got it back again, it was like,
Yeah.
okay, now I've got it back, I'll help other people, but I'll make sure when they get it, they don't lose it.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that. And it puts a whole different spin and a whole different mechanisms into their business.
Yeah. Is it going stronger, your why, when you have actually success and you see people grow, or it's going
Yes.
like, oh, I'm going to change it?
No, it's actually growing stronger.
That's
we deal
good.
with larger businesses with Gerard as well.
Yeah.
But if you ask me where my passion was, do I want to do with the, you know, $50-60 million businesses and helping them become self-managed and, you know, so become managed operator businesses, or do I like staying with the small operators, getting to their first million? Your first million is your toughest.
Yeah.
Once you get that,
True.
they're pretty good at getting the rest.
Yeah.
So that's really where I've got my passion. What's your why?
My why is to help businesses or people in business to stop to stress that much, because I was always so stressed, and have fun, because I think, and that's why the why is important for me and as well for people that I'm working with, because we just kind of forgetting the why, and we forgetting things, you know, why we doing things, and why we are so crazy busy, and we don't have time for family or partners or having fun or our health. And my health crashed. I really burned out. I was really down. And it was because I was just doing. And I think I'm just trying to help people just step back from the business a little bit and have like an overview, you know, from the top, and look at yourself, look at your business, look at what you do, and start to really work on your business like you would do if you have a lot of money, you know, just don't chase.
I think that's really fantastic. Understanding your why, so it protects your wealth, it protects your health,
Yes.
and it protects your relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
It takes care of all three. Alex, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed that interview with Alex. I don't know if I'm enjoying this jumping in and out of chairs and pressing buttons. It's a bit of a challenge. Keep your questions coming, keep your comments. We absolutely love them. But this switching around for social distancing is a challenge in itself. But I really do think it does come down to your whys and your values. I think if your values are straight, you're prepared to do a few things to help other people. Alex, by the way, just so you know, has formed a brand new group, Worldwide Networking. I think you'll find it on Facebook, where her and a few other people have stepped up and said, let's provide some extra support for people in these times. So just a little thing on that, check it out on Facebook. The next guest that came in was Colin James. Oh, by the way, with Alex, that was pre-recorded. That's why the social distancing wasn't in place at that time. So no comments in there telling me off, please. We did these in a whole bunch earlier on. Colin comes in and he is talking about two-factor authentication on Facebook. Now, I am not a pessimist, but I know and you know that even in times of grief and struggle and when people are vulnerable, there are certain people out there that will try to take advantage of the situation. We know this. It's a horrible thing, but there are those types of people out there. And I think helping each other is really important, but also helping each other in how to help ourselves is just as important. And Colin does that today. He came in and he talked about Facebook and two-factor authentication. Share it with other people because they are vulnerable at this stage. I think it's really important. Here he is, Mr. Colin James. Well, we're back again with Colin James. Mr. Facebook, you're getting known as.
It's a worry, I tell you.
Colin, we're talking security. You've come on a couple of times and talked about friends, seeing friends, and go back and have a look at that episode. You talked about unknown computers, so people can't hack in. What's another important security factor to protect us? Because a lot of things are going on around about Facebook.
The most important security feature you should have turned on is two-factor authentication.
Can you explain this to us?
So two-factor authentication, it sort of goes hand in hand with unknown computer. If somebody logs in to your Facebook account, Facebook will send you a code to your mobile phone that you have to enter into Facebook to be able to get into your Facebook account. And once again, this is on your personal profile. And if you are using Facebook to promote your business, you have business pages, you might have several business pages. And if you have a business that has 3 different divisions and you have 3 different pages set up to do that, and someone gets into your personal profile, they now have access to all of that. So what two-factor authentication does is it makes you put in a second code to get into Facebook. If you don't put the code in, Facebook won't let you get in.
So I've got 2 questions. The first one is, do I have to set two-factor authentication for my personal page and each of my business pages?
No, you've got to remember, we log into Facebook as our personal profile. That then gives us access to everything else that we are administrators of or we own.
Okay, so that's a very important point because some of us actually do have management of friends' Facebook pages. Correct. As well. How do we turn it on?
Once again, settings at the top right-hand corner, into security, and under security there is a heading called two-factor authentication. It's just press a button, it turns it on, asks you for a phone number or an email address, set it up, it'll send you a code to authenticate it so it verifies that it is you, and it wants to use the phone number you've actually set up in your Facebook profile.
I was going to ask, you put your phone number in, what happens if you get another phone?
That's a worry.
Really?
Because if you lose the phone number, remember it's the phone number. So if you can also set it up with a secondary way of communicating with you, so you can have phone number and email address.
Which you would recommend?
Yes. Always have 2, because it's very easy to lose a phone. And you want to be able to go somewhere, log into your account and go and change your password, change your phone number and all that sort of stuff when you've lost your phone, especially young people use the phones a lot.
So if you lose your phone and you can log in through email, is it then easy to change the phone number in there?
Correct. You just go into your personal profile settings, into the about, change your phone number, save it, change your password. If you have to change your phone number, you have to change anything in Facebook, change your password.
Right. Just on a side note, and I know we're talking about two-factor authentication, but you mentioned password. Should we be changing passwords regularly, or doesn't it matter with two-factor?
Two-factor authentication saves you a lot, but I would recommend you change your password monthly.
Monthly?
Monthly. So, you know, Facebook won't let you use a password you've used in the last 12 months anyway. All you need to do is come up with some sort of matrix for passwords. So it's basically the same every time, but something fairly substantial is changed in it every time. I mean, my wife uses numbers, but the numbers are to a page and a word in a book.
Right. So your recommendation for this week is?
Turn your two-factor authentication on and set it up.
That was Colin James talking about Facebook. Because we're in self-isolation, a lot of people, we are on our social media even more. Just take the time out and just put those things in place. People always say, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do strategic thinking, I don't have time to put things in place. Now we do have that time. So let's make the best of this time working on our business and putting things in place to help us when this crisis is over, that we can go forward. This is the end of our show, and I really want to thank all our guests for taking the time out and doing more than one interview at a time. We're all very busy, and they have really put in an effort to bring a message to you that you can take some of those information and apply it in your business. Most of these things is not costing money, and that is what I appreciate about our guests sharing their knowledge. I hope that you will listen to this, share it with friends. There's always somebody that can use some of this information. Please share and send it to the links to them that they can also listen. We're going to end today with the golf tip. We still have to relax. We still have to learn. And here is Peter Hopkins with today's golf tip.
Welcome to another golf tip, brought to you by Top Tracer, your personal golf coach, helping you hit it straight down the middle. Welcome to this week's golf tip, brought to you by Top Tracer. This week we're going to talk about consistency. So the main important things for getting consistency in your golf swing and your golf ball flight is making sure that you have the correct grip, stance and posture. So what we want to do is just have a simple hold of the golf club. So we bring our hands from our sides, just bring them in together, just take hold of the golf club. Our options are in our grip are overlap, 10 fingers on there, interlock. There's plenty of options, none of them are incorrect or have to do. From there, we want to make sure that we get our posture where we push our backside out a little bit, let our arms just fall down, and from here. And then from there, it's just a matter of swinging back over my right shoulder, through over my left shoulder, and then from there we should be able to get the consistency to get the ball going straight down the middle. We'll be able to do this, and I'll show you by hitting a few shots on Top Tracer how we can use Top Tracer to get and prove that consistency. So let me hit 3 shots and be able to show you how Top Tracer can be your own personal coach in getting that consistency into your golf swing. So here we go, nice posture, set up, swing back, swing through and finish balanced. From there we'll be able to get that consistency. The Top Tracer will show us what's happening on each of those shots. And you can see the importance of finish balanced and keeping the rhythm and timing in your swing to get that consistency. Posture, grip, backswing and through. Well, I hope you enjoyed that tip, and I look forward to seeing you on Top Tracer on the range here at Whaleback Golf Course in the near future.